Good eve, dear friend. Good eve and a hello and a salve. Salve, Magister. Salve, Magister. How are you this eve? Thank you so much for being a part of us. Thank you so much for following Lionel Nation. Make sure you are subscribed. I'm hearing from people more and more that they are being unsubscribed to for reasons I can't explain. I don't understand this. Make sure you right now just double check that you are indeed subscribed. Subscribe to Lionel. Lionel. Lionel, 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 Lionel Nation, ladies and germs, thank you so much. You know, my friends, there's so much which is so critical, so important, so unbelievably necessary. I'm going to throw a lot at you today. This is always our last show before the day is done. But I must say, let me remind you of something which is so critical before one of our great sponsors, our friends at preparewithlionel.com. Listen to me. I've asked this question. What happens when the shelves are bare, the trucks stop rolling, and chaos hits? Whether it's hurricanes or wildfires or strikes or blackouts or even EMPs, you can't rule anything out. And if you trust these bastards, I don't mean Trump, I don't mean the Republicans, I mean the shadow government. Imagine going a week without real food, not snacks, not, banana chips and jerky, but I mean real life sustaining calories and clean water. That's why I urge, I implore, I entreat, I beseech, I ask you, I urge you right now to act now. My Patriot Supplies 3-month food kit gives over 2,000 calories a day, 22 varieties, shelf life up to 25 years. There's nothing like it. It is the creme de la creme. And today, if you act now by going to preparewithlionel.com, preparewithlionel.com, follow the link that I provided here, you can get a $247 value on free for 4 extra weeks free. Okay? Don't wait until it's too late, my friends. Go right now. Immediate shipping. This is the easiest thing you can do. Get this off your checklist, your to-do list. Preparewithlionel.com. Protect your family. Preparewithlionel.com. Ladies and germs, I was just looking at some of your brilliant comments. One of you had written, Trump is on the list. No, he's not. Not a predator list. Not an assailant list. No, no, no. Ask what the list is. Before I begin with today's important news, I want to remind you of something. I'm going to say this again. I told you this last night. I told you this yesterday. I tell you this every single day. And I'll be telling you at 1 a.m. today on WABC when I begin the overnight show. You ready for this? The Department of Justice has everything you want. Go to Pam Bondi and say, Pam, release the information. Release the information. Go ahead and release the information. Pam, do it. Do it, Pam. Do it. Release the information. You don't need anybody. Let me ask you, dear friends, when somebody tells you, listen, make sure you bodilarize my name. Make sure you expurgate my name. Make sure you remove and edit my name from that. Don't you leave my name in there. I did everything in my power to hide. I did everything in my power to stay away from this. I did everything in my power to not have my name listed. I was a gardener. I was somebody tangential. I was somebody who had nothing really to do with any of this. I did nothing. Don't list me. Don't mention me. Or maybe I'm a victim. Maybe I was a minor. Maybe my name's in there and I wasn't even charged with anything. Make sure this list is not merely raw files, but the president's name is not listed as any kind of predator. And while we're on the subject, where's Bill Gates? Where's Bill Clinton? We'll talk more about that, my friends. More upon it. Don't get black pilled. Don't become soured. There's so many people, sometimes, not you, mind you, but other people who are so incredibly, they're in love with negativity. They're in love with portending doom. Mr. Mr. Jones, Alex Jones, had accused Owen Schroyer of such before he was summarily dismissed. Now, I want you to listen carefully, because man doesn't live by bread alone, but also we do not live by merely domestic theories and domestic stories anyway, only. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, and Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and BRICS. The SCO, remember this, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and BRICS have become central to the discussion of multipolarity and the gradual erosion, ladies and gentlemen, of Western primacy. Don't let this dry sound fool you. It's critical. The recent SCO Leaders Summit in Tianjin, with over 24 leaders in attendance, underscored both the promise and the limitations of those individuals, those groups, those emerging groupings. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first visit to China in 7 years, widely noted in non-Western media, symbolized the growing momentum, listen to me carefully, of non-Western institutions. Yet as a realist, and others, I think we are, to use the Mearsheimer terms, Mearsheimer terms, I guess, as we would argue, the cultural constraints remain decisive. Neither SCO nor BRICS will transform global governance overnight. These institutions matter, but their power lies in their gradual evolutionary character, not in any revolutionary rupture, so to speak. Now, to understand why, let me explain to you. It's important to situate these organizations within the logic, this is important, and to use this Mearsheimer term of international anarchy. Let me explain. The absence of a global sovereign means that states remain trapped in the self-help system. Security competition is never absent, never. And even cooperative organizations cannot escape the underlying distribution of power, the distribution of power that shapes outcomes. So the SCO began as a mechanism for China and post-Soviet states to manage border disputes, but over time it expanded to include economic and security dimensions. BRICS, initially kind of a loose grouping of major emergency economies, has taken on more weight as a vehicle for financial multipolarity. I know this may sound dry. Don't let it. This is critical. You're not going to hear anybody talking about this. Not Lutnick, not Witkoff, certainly not Marco Rubio, not anyone. The Trump administration doesn't talk like this. Trump administration doesn't think like this. Trump knows nothing about this. Just as Trump was misled by warp speed, he is being misled by this. This is not his bailiwick. This is not his expertise, and it shows. Together, my friends, these folks represent efforts by what is increasingly termed the world majority. The world majority there to erode the West monopoly over global governance. But let me say, here too, structural conditions, this is important. Structural conditions impose limits. Number one, the diversity of members is striking. For far too long, you've thought, we're the United States. We've got nothing to worry about. We're the best and the biggest, and everybody wants to be us, and nothing. No, not anymore. Not anymore, my friends. The diversity of members is unbelievable. Look, SCO members include China, Russia, India, Pakistan, and Central Asian states, with Iran as a new member. While BRICS is anchored by China, India, Russia, Brazil, and South Africa, with new additions in the Middle East and Africa. These countries differ sharply in interests, in alignments, and domestic politics. India and China remain locked in a rivalry along their disputed border. Russia and India balance ties, I guess, with the West and with each other in careful ways. Pakistan remains a spoiler within the SCO framework. These divisions mean consensus and agreement are limited to broad declarations of cooperation. Let me also tell you, this is about 40%, almost 50% of the world's population. But unlike NATO or the EU, SCO and BRICS, their agreements are non-binding. This prevents institutional cohesion, but ensures state sovereignty is protected, which is a trade-off, my friends. A trade-off that reflects this, I guess, structural suspicion that states harbor under anarchy. Just making sense. I know this may sound dry, but it's fascinating. Our good friend Rafael Lagonde says, Trump gonna create a G3 soon. Let's see, my friend. This is not, my good friend, and thank you for your kindness, sir. This is not his bailiwick. I don't get too excited over Trump regarding this. This isn't his thing. The next point I want you to understand: economic interdependence with the West limits the pace of multipolarity. You see, BRICS members may rail against Western financial dominance, and they do, but their economies remain deeply tied to Western capital and markets. See, China can't abruptly just sever its dollar-based trade network without inflicting massive, incredible costs on itself. India remains linked to Western investment big time. And let me throw in technology as well. Even Russia, despite the sanctions, despite all that's going on, must navigate very complicated, workarounds in global finance. The BRICS New Development Bank complies with Western sanctions against Russia, which is a very telling example of how structural dependence forces conformity and agreement, even when the chatter and the rhetoric is anti-Western. Talk about rapid de-dollarization should therefore be treated very skeptically. The more realistic forecast is a slow diversification of currency usage. Now, this is why Trump has to get along with these people. And it's good, with the dollar retaining primacy for the foreseeable future, this is the time for Trump to stop this bellicose nonsense. We don't have to be at war with the world. Why are we doing this? Why? Welcome, curveballs. Thank you. Welcome. And hit that like button indeed. The third thing, and I hope Trump is listening, sovereignty, the concerns about sovereignty prevent a military alliance. You see, the SCO is not and cannot become an Asian NATO. Intelligence sharing within the SCO is narrowly focused on terrorism, separatism, extremism, what Chinese officials call the three evils. But deeper security integration is blocked by they call it the Indo-Pak rivalry. India and Pakistan, Sino-Indian, China-Indian competition, and Russian wariness of Chinese dominance. See, these are not trivial disputes. They go to the very heart of sovereignty. And under anarchy, no state willingly cedes the ability to defend itself. Remember what anarchy is. Anarchy is the opposite of hierarchy. It doesn't mean a discombobulation. It doesn't mean a mess. It just means that when these countries and these folks need to go elsewhere and do something, what they do is they realize, there, as John Mearsheimer says, there's no 911 to call. They have to act on their own. So therefore, what's interesting is the SCO security dimension, this part, is more symbolic than substantive. But it signals solidarity. but it does not bind members to collective defense. It's not NATO. It's important to understand this. And the next point, leadership dynamics kind of complicate this, make it even more complicated. China is central to both BRICS and the SCO, but its dominance is being contested. India is too large and too proud to play second fiddle. And Russia, weakened by sanctions and war, nevertheless seeks to maintain influence by always positioning itself as a balancing force. Brazil and South Africa push for agendas tied to the global South, and this balancing act makes it really tough for China to dictate outcomes. But it also ensures, and this is important, that these institutions do not collapse into what people would call irrelevance. What comes out of this, what emerges, is a loose coalition that's united and connected by opposition to Western dominance, but divided on the specifics of what a post-Western order should look like. Look, from a realist perspective, what matters is not, I guess, idealistic stuff, proclamations, but the distribution of material power. China's rise is the engine behind BRICS and SCO and the momentum of this. Listen to this. India's participation in this grants legitimacy. Russia's defiance of the West provides fuel. And the Middle Eastern and African entrance into this provide demographic and resource weight. So, but understand something, material power also ties these folks to the global economy, where the West still holds significant leverage. Listen, do you hear what I'm saying? I'm talking about balance. I'm talking about this unique balance that President Trump has to understand. This isn't what he does. He understands deals and simple. This can be explained to him. This can be reduced very, very simply into different aspects of it. So the reality of this is that the West cannot dominate as before, but the world majority cannot yet replace it. So this produces a transitional system. Multipolarity. This is the word now. This is whenever you hear the big boys talk about multipolarity in the formation rather than in fact. So what's happening right now is Donald Trump needs to be schooled. The Trump administration's policies have accelerated these trends. Tariff wars with China, threats against Venezuela, strikes on Iran have reinforced non-Western fears of U.S. unpredictability. Is that good or bad? See, to Trump, it means we're the baddest, we just do it. Trump's willingness to weaponize economic interdependence through, as I mentioned, tariffs and sanctions and financial coercion, this has given basically states an incentive to seek alternatives. So Trump has said, you better do something and act accordingly. You better become cohesive. You better get along, little doggy. And BRICS gains traction as a vehicle for financial resilience. And SCO becomes a forum for coordinating against these unconventional threats. We never had BRICS and SCO before. You didn't have to worry about that. Nixon never worried about this. Never even heard of it. No, what is this? No, it's a different world now. They lied to Trump about COVID. They lied to him about warp speed. He doesn't know everything. I don't know who his advisors are. But here again, Mr. Trump, President Trump, structure is critical. These institutions can blunt U.S. coercion. It can interfere with it, but they can't eliminate it. For China and India, trade with the United States and Europe remains indispensable. Use that. Understand that leverage. For Russia, energy exports still require global markets. And for Brazil and South Africa, Western finance remains essential. So these constraints, this balance, it all slows the march towards this multipolarity. We are not the king of the heap. We're not it. What does the future hold? Mr. President, what is it? A lot of people who are very, very wise caution against linear predictions, like it's going to be like that. It's not geometric. I don't know what it is. Fractal The most likely scenario is not a sudden collapse of Western primacy, but a gradual diffusion of power. You see, the world majority will strengthen its capacity to resist Western pressure. It's absolutely true. But not to completely supplant the West. You see what I mean? Alternative institutions like the SCO in Eurasia, the African Union on that continent, ACM in Southeast Asia, they're all moving together, and they're assuming greater importance. BRICS may expand financial tools to chip away at dollar dominance. All this stuff is happening. Who is his architect? Who is his captain? Who is leading the ship regarding this? Who is his international specialist? I don't know. But the UN and Bretton Woods and all these other institutions will persist, even if weakened. So the result is not going to be a wholesale replacement of all this, but the partial redundancy. Multiple institutions operating in parallel. And all of this is going to be showing kind of a more fragmented order. So what the president has to understand is that SCO and BRICS are significant precisely because they symbolize the erosion, the collapse of unipolarity. Do you know how to deal with that? They're imperfect, they're fragmented, they're constrained, but they reflect the structural reality that the West, and don't get yourself, we're the West, that we no longer monopolize global, governance and control. And the world majority is asserting itself. But their impact will be evolutionary, not revolutionary. So understand this, Mr. President. Don't fight these people. We have enough enemies. A generation may pass before multipolarity becomes, fully operational. And we don't have to always show everybody our battle plan. The way we show our power is through blowing things up. That's the way Trump thinks. Until this happens, we live in a very transitional era. And it is so wild. There's going to be contests and hedging and incremental shifting and that's the realist conclusion. Power is coming apart. It's diffusing. But structure dictates that pace. Who is arguing? Who is explaining this to the president? Does he understand? Does the president understand AI? No. Does he understand what Palantir represents? No. Does he understand this really serious world? No. 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 Absolutely not. It's one of his shortcomings. He needs the wise men. He needs people to help him. Now, let me say again to you, which is very, very critical, which I want to remind you of a few things. One, do not ever take your eye off what's happening. Do not. Do not. When I talked to you before about this, when I talk about this, prepare with Lionel, I am dead serious. Remember the longshoreman strike they talked about? That wasn't a formal cessation of everything. That was just a little bit of a break. It's like, okay, we have a contract for now. Do you think our enemies, the deep state, because those are our enemies, do you think these people, do you think those folks represent anything that we can turn our back on? Do you think that our enemy is China? I don't. That's not our enemy. China's not going to affect my freedom of speech. The deep state is. The shadow government here. Absolutely not. This president right now, have you heard what he's had to say about Israel? He's this close as to realize the con that's been presented to him through the years and through Jared Kushner. Rumor has it Ivanka's on the outs. She's in exile, and so is Jared. A lot of people are on the outs. Let me explain something to you. Trump is a realist. Okay? He's the ultimate realist. He knows what's going on. And he also realizes that when he's done with this thing, when he's done, there's going to be no more Trump family. It's going to be done. No more Trump family. They're not going to mean anything after this. This is his swan song. This is his big moment in the sun. Don't kid yourself. This is a very smart dude. Very smart. When he understands the basics. The question is, you got to get the right people to tell him what's going on. And we have to remain less bellicose. He knows in building business, you have to keep the labor unions happy. You got to keep the concrete folks. You got to keep the mob happy. You got to keep a lot of people, not break the law, but you don't want to make enemies. You don't want to piss up a rope. And that's what he has to understand. And one final word, we'll be talking about this. And I want you to understand this notion regarding Epstein, especially. And I'll be talking about this at 1 a.m., 1 to 4 Eastern Time on WABC, 770 a.m., the number one talk radio station, bar none. That's not just me being grandiose. That's the God's honest truth. What we're going to be seeing here is so important and so critical. And the Epstein thing in particular is nothing but a diversion. It's a distraction. It's over. Because he's not the issue. What's in the background is critical, and it never will be brought to your attention. All right? Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Have a grand and glorious day. Thank you so much to Rafael Legonde. Thank you. Curveballs, welcome, my friend. And you have a great and a glorious day. We will see you later today. Always make sure you are subscribed, because I'm going to be popping up later. And until then, my friends, remember this, as I always say, as we always end with this valedictory, the monkey's dead. This show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.